Sarah Martinez had always been the best shot in her family. Growing up on a ranch in Texas, she could hit a beer can at 200 yards with her grandfather's old hunting rifle when she was just 12 years old. Her father and two older brothers were all Marines, and they taught her everything they knew about weapons, tactics, and military discipline. When Sarah turned 18, she marched into the Marine Corps recruiting station with her head held high and her test scores in hand. She scored perfect on the marksmanship evaluation and ranked in the top 5% on all physical fitness tests. The recruiter's eyes lit up when he saw her numbers. "You're exactly what we need," he told her, shaking her hand firmly. "With scores like these, you could go anywhere in the Corps." Boot camp was everything Sarah had expected and more. She outshot most of the men in her platoon and finished third overall in physical training. Her drill instructors noticed her exceptional marksmanship skills immediately. During weapons training, she consistently scored expert marksman ratings that made even the instructors take notice. "Martinez, where did you learn to shoot like that?" Drill instructor Sergeant Patterson asked after watching her put 10 rounds through the same hole at 300 yards. "My family, sir. Been shooting since I was 8, Sarah replied, maintaining perfect military bearing. "Well, keep it up. The Corps needs shooters like you." Sarah graduated boot camp with honors and was selected for advanced infantry training. This was where she truly excelled. During marksmanship competitions, she regularly outperformed Marines who had been shooting professionally for years. Her instructors began talking about recommending her for Scout Sniper School. "Martinez, you have a natural gift," Staff Sergeant Williams told her after she achieved a perfect score on the 1,000-yard range. "I've been training Marines for 15 years, and I've never seen raw talent like yours." But when Sarah submitted her application for Scout Sniper School, it came back with a single word stamped across it in red ink: DENIED. She requested a meeting with her commanding officer, Captain Richards, to understand the rejection. She knocked on his office door with her service record in hand, confident there had been some mistake. "Sir, I believe there's been an error with my Scout Sniper application," she began, standing at attention. Captain Richards looked uncomfortable. He shuffled papers on his desk without meeting her eyes. "Martinez, your scores are outstanding. Your performance has been exemplary." "Then why was I denied, sir?" "The Scout Sniper program is currently closed to female personnel. It's a direct combat role, and policy prohibits women from serving in such positions." Sarah felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Sir, with respect, I've outperformed every male Marine in marksmanship training. My scores speak for themselves." "I understand your frustration, Martinez, but policy is policy. The brass believes that direct combat roles are too physically and mentally demanding for women. It's about unit cohesion and the safety of all personnel." "Sir, I can carry the same load, shoot better than most of your male snipers, and I've proven my mental toughness. What more do I need to demonstrate?" Captain Richards finally looked at her directly. "Martinez, you're an excellent Marine, but this isn't about your individual capabilities. It's about maintaining standards and traditions that have served the Corps well for over 200 years." Sarah left the meeting feeling angry and betrayed. She had trained her entire life for this opportunity, only to be told that her gender made her unfit for service regardless of her abilities. The other Marines in her unit were sympathetic but not surprised. "It's just how things are," her squad leader told her. "Maybe things will change someday, but right now that's the way it is." Sarah refused to accept defeat. She continued training on her own time, spending hours on the rifle range and studying sniper tactics and techniques. She read every manual she could find and practiced advanced shooting positions until they became second nature. Her persistence caught the attention of Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez, a former Scout sniper who now worked as a marksmanship instructor. He watched her train during off-duty hours and was impressed by her dedication. "Martinez, what are you doing out here every evening?" he asked one day as she practiced shooting from unconventional positions. "Training gunny, staying sharp." "Training for what? You're not in sniper school." "Not yet," Sarah replied, adjusting her scope, "but someday I will be." Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez studied her for a moment. "You know the policy isn't going to change anytime soon." "Maybe not, but when it does, I'll be ready." He watched her put 5 rounds through a target at 600 yards, all within a 2-inch group. "Tell you what, Martinez, If you're serious about this, I'll help you train. Unofficially, of course. Sarah's eyes lit up. You do that? I've been training snipers for 20 years. I know talent when I see it, and I know dedication when I see it. You have both. It would be a waste not to develop your skills properly. For the next 6 months, Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez trained Sarah in advanced marksmanship, field craft, and sniper tactics. They met early in the morning before regular duties and again in the evening after everyone else had gone to chow. He taught her to read wind patterns, calculate bullet drop for extreme distances, and move through terrain without leaving a trace. Sniping isn't just about shooting, he explained during one of their training sessions. Any fool can pull a trigger. A true sniper is invisible, patient, and thinks 3 moves ahead of the enemy. Sarah absorbed every lesson eagerly. She learned to estimate ranges by eye, to construct hide sights that were completely undetectable, and to remain motionless for hours at a time. Her natural shooting ability combined with professional training made her formidable. During a base-wide marksmanship competition, Sarah entered the precision rifle event. The competition was open to all Marines, including scout snipers from active duty units. Sarah competed against 23 other Marines, including several certified scout snipers with combat experience. The course required shooting at targets from 200 to 1,000 yards in various positions and conditions. Wind was gusting unpredictably, and the lighting changed throughout the day as clouds moved across the sun. One by one, the other competitors struggled with the challenging conditions. Experienced snipers missed shots they would normally make easily. The wind played havoc with long-distance shots, and several Marines failed to adjust properly for the changing light. Sarah remained calm and focused. She took her time with each shot, reading the wind carefully and adjusting her point of aim accordingly. When the final scores were tallied, she had achieved a perfect score, something that had never been accomplished in the competition's 15-year history. The base commander presented her with the trophy personally. Outstanding performance, Marine, absolutely outstanding. Word of Sarah's perfect score spread throughout the Marine Corps. Several scout sniper instructors requested copies of her scores, and her name began appearing in marksmanship circles as someone to watch. But despite her proven abilities, the policy remained unchanged. Sarah continued serving in a regular infantry unit, watching as Marines with inferior shooting skills were selected for scout sniper training simply because they were male. The frustration ate at her daily. She saw herself as being held back not by lack of ability or dedication, but by a policy that judged her based on her gender rather than her performance. She considered leaving the Marines and pursuing civilian competitive shooting, where her gender wouldn't matter. Then, during her 2nd year of service, something happened that changed everything. Sarah was assigned to provide security for a military convoy traveling through a dangerous area during a training exercise. The convoy included several high-ranking officers who were observing the training operations. The exercise was designed to simulate real combat conditions, with opposing forces attempting to ambush the convoy using realistic tactics. What nobody expected was for the exercise to become deadly serious. A group of actual terrorists had been monitoring the base for weeks, waiting for an opportunity to strike at American forces. They had observed the training schedule and planned their attack to coincide with the exercise, knowing that initial reports of gunfire would be dismissed as part of the training. The convoy was moving through a narrow mountain pass when the attack began. Automatic weapons fire erupted from multiple positions on the ridgeline above the road. The attackers had chosen their positions well. The convoy was trapped with nowhere to go. The Marines in the convoy immediately took cover and began returning fire, but they were at a severe disadvantage. The attackers held the high ground and were well concealed among the rocks and trees. Sarah found herself pinned down behind a disabled vehicle with several other Marines. Bullets were striking the ground around them, sending up spurts of dirt and rock fragments. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. "We need to neutralize those shooters on the ridge," shouted Sergeant Morrison, the convoy leader. "They've got us pinned down completely." Sarah looked up at the ridgeline through her rifle scope. She could see muzzle flashes from at least 4 different positions, approximately 800 yards away. The other Marines were firing wildly in the general direction of the attackers, but their shots were having no effect. "Sergeant, I can take them out," Sarah called over the sound of gunfire. With what? You don't have the range from here. Sarah held up her M16A4 rifle, which was equipped with a high-powered scope that she had been authorized to use during training. I can make the shots. Sergeant Morrison looked skeptical. 800 yards was extreme range for an M16, and the targets were partially concealed. Martinez, that's a hell of a long shot with that rifle. Trust me, Sergeant, I can do this. Another burst of gunfire from the ridge wounded one of the Marines near them. There was no time to debate the plan further. Do it, Sergeant Morrison ordered. Sarah found a stable shooting position behind the disabled vehicle and began studying the ridgeline through her scope. She could see the attackers moving between cover positions, firing down at the convoy before ducking back behind rocks. The wind was blowing steadily from left to right at approximately 12 miles per hour. At 800 yards, that would push her bullet nearly 3 feet to the right if she didn't compensate properly. She also had to account for bullet drop. At that distance, her round would fall nearly 6 feet below her point of aim. Sarah took a deep breath and settled the crosshairs on the first target. She could see him clearly now, a man in military-style clothing with an AK-47 rifle. He was firing controlled bursts at the convoy, completely unaware that he was being targeted. She squeezed the trigger smoothly, following through with the shot exactly as Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez had taught her. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and she immediately worked the bolt to chamber another round. Through her scope, she saw the first attacker suddenly jerk backward and disappear behind the rocks. Direct hit. The other attackers continued firing, apparently unaware that their companion had been eliminated. Sarah shifted her aim to the second position, where another gunman was leaning around a large boulder to fire at the convoy. This shot was even more challenging because the target was only partially visible. Sarah aimed for the center of the exposed area and squeezed the trigger. Again, the target dropped immediately. By now, the remaining attackers had realized they were under precision fire from below. They began moving more cautiously, trying to stay behind cover while still maintaining their attack on the convoy. Sarah tracked the third attacker as he moved between positions. When he stopped to fire, exposing himself for just a few seconds, she was ready. Her third shot dropped him instantly. The last attacker panicked and began firing rapidly in all directions, apparently trying to suppress whoever was shooting his companions. This gave Sarah a clear target as he exposed himself completely while spraying bullets wildly. Her fourth shot ended the attack completely. The entire engagement had lasted less than 3 minutes. Sarah had eliminated 4 enemy fighters with 4 shots at 800 yards, a feat that would have been impressive for an experienced combat sniper with specialized equipment. The convoy was saved, but more importantly, Sarah had proven beyond any doubt that she possessed the skills and composure necessary for precision shooting under extreme pressure. Word of her performance spread quickly through the chain of command. Within hours, Sarah found herself being debriefed by senior officers who wanted to understand exactly what had happened. They studied the distances involved, examined her rifle and ammunition, and interviewed witnesses to confirm the details. Martinez, what you accomplished today was extraordinary, Colonel Henderson told her during the debrief. 4 targets eliminated with 4 shots at extreme range under combat conditions. That's the kind of performance we expect from our most elite snipers. Thank you, sir. I just did what needed to be done. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Family training and additional instruction from Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez, sir. Colonel Henderson made notes in his file. Have you ever applied for Scout Sniper School? Yes, sir. I was denied due to current policy restrictions. The colonel looked uncomfortable. I see. Well, your actions today have certainly gotten people's attention at very high levels. Sarah didn't know it yet, but her performance during the convoy attack had started a chain reaction that would eventually reach the highest levels of military leadership. Video footage of the engagement, taken by security cameras on the convoy vehicles, was being analyzed by sniper instructors and tactical experts. The footage showed Sarah's calm demeanor under fire, her methodical approach to engaging targets, and the devastating accuracy of her shooting. Military analysts who reviewed the video agreed that her performance exceeded that of many experienced combat snipers. But changing military policy would take time, and Sarah still faced the same restrictions that had blocked her path to sniper school. For now, she would have to continue proving herself through exceptional performance, hoping that eventually, the system would recognize her abilities and change the rules that held her back. The convoy attack had been a turning point, but Sarah's real challenges were just beginning. The attention her performance had generated would bring both opportunities and obstacles that she never could have imagined. The weeks following the convoy incident brought unexpected attention to Sarah Martinez. Military publications ran stories about the mystery markswoman who had single-handedly eliminated a terrorist cell. News outlets picked up the story, and suddenly Sarah found herself at the center of a national debate about women in combat roles. Colonel Henderson called Sarah into his office 3 days after the incident. Sitting across from him was a woman in dress blues with eagles on her collar, Colonel Patricia Walsh from Marine Corps Headquarters. "Martinez, this is Colonel Walsh from Personnel Management. She's here to discuss your future with the Corps." Colonel Walsh studied Sarah with sharp, intelligent eyes. "Gunner Sergeant Rodriguez has submitted a detailed report about your training and abilities. Combined with your performance during the recent incident, it's created quite a stir in Washington." "Ma'am, I was just doing my job. 4 precision kills at 800 yards with standard infantry equipment isn't just doing your job, Martinez. It's exceptional performance that demonstrates capabilities we can't afford to waste." Sarah felt a surge of hope. Does this mean the policy might change? Colonel Walsh leaned back in her chair. Policy changes slowly in the military, especially policies that have been in place for decades. But there are people in very high positions who are asking hard questions about why our most capable marksmen are being excluded from advanced training. She pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the desk. "I'm here to offer you an opportunity. It's not official Scout Sniper School, that's still closed to female personnel. But there's a new experimental program being developed to test advanced marksmanship techniques and equipment." Sarah's heart raced. "What kind of program?" "It's called the Precision Marksmanship Development Initiative. Officially, it's a research and testing program for new weapons and tactics. Unofficially, it's a way to train exceptional shooters without having to change existing policies." Colonel Henderson interjected. "The program would give you access to the same training as Scout snipers, plus cutting-edge equipment and techniques that even regular snipers don't learn. The catch," Colonel Walsh continued, "is that you'd be operating in a gray area. You wouldn't have the official Scout Sniper designation, and some people in the Corps won't accept your authority or expertise." Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'll take it." "Don't answer so quickly. This path will be more difficult than regular sniper school. You'll be constantly proving yourself to skeptics. Every mistake will be magnified, and every success will be questioned." "Ma'am, I've been dealing with that my entire career. At least this way, I'll have the chance to develop my skills properly." Colonel Walsh smiled slightly. "Good answer. Report to Camp Pendleton next Monday. Ask for Master Sergeant Thompson at the Advanced Marksmanship Unit." 3 days later, Sarah arrived at Camp Pendleton carrying everything she owned in 2 duffel bags. The Advanced Marksmanship Unit was located in a remote section of the base, far from the main training areas. The buildings looked more like a civilian research facility than a military installation. Master Sergeant Thompson was waiting for her at the entrance. He was a compact man in his 40s with the weathered face of someone who had spent years in the field. His uniform displayed Ranger tabs, airborne wings, and a chest full of ribbons that told stories of combat deployments around the world. "So you're the famous Martinez," he said, looking her up and down critically. "I've read your file and watched the convoy footage. Impressive shooting." "Thank you, Master Sergeant." "Don't thank me yet. What you did during that convoy attack was good instinctive shooting, but being a sniper is about more than just hitting targets. Follow me." He led her through the facility, which contained some of the most advanced shooting ranges and training equipment Sarah had ever seen. Computer-controlled targets could simulate movement patterns and changing environmental conditions. Wind machines could create precise atmospheric conditions for training purposes. "This program has 3 other students besides you," Thompson explained as they walked. "All of them are male Marines who were selected from existing Scout sniper units for advanced training." They entered a classroom where 3 Marines stood at attention. Thompson introduced them. Sergeant Williams, a veteran sniper with 2 combat deployments, Corporal Jackson, who held several marksmanship records, and Lance Corporal Morrison, the youngest member of the group but already recognized as an exceptional talent. Sarah could see the skepticism in their eyes immediately. They had heard about her convoy performance, but they also knew she had never completed formal sniper training. "Gentlemen, meet your new classmate," Thompson announced. "Martinez will be training alongside you for the next 16 weeks. Sergeant Williams spoke first. "Master Sergeant, with respect, shouldn't someone complete basic scout sniper school before joining an advanced program?" "Normally, yes, but Martinez's performance suggests she may already possess skills that surpass basic training. We'll find out soon enough." The first week was deliberately designed to test Sarah's foundational knowledge. While the other students worked on advanced techniques, she was required to demonstrate proficiency in basic sniper skills that she had learned through informal training. Thompson put her through rigorous testing of range estimation, ballistics calculations, and field craft. Sarah quickly proved that her informal training with Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez had been thorough and professional. "Your fundamentals are solid," Thompson told her after she successfully demonstrated camouflage and concealment techniques. "Rodriguez did good work with you." But technical skills were only part of the challenge. The other students maintained a cold professionalism around Sarah that made it clear they didn't consider her a legitimate member of the team. During marksmanship training, they would make subtle comments about diversity training and political correctness. When Sarah outperformed them on shooting exercises, they attributed her success to luck or special treatment. The tension came to a head during the third week of training. The students were learning to engage multiple targets at various ranges under time pressure. Each Marine had to successfully hit 5 targets placed between 400 and 1,000 yards in under 60 seconds. Sergeant Williams went first, achieving 4 hits out of 5 targets. Corporal Jackson managed 3 hits. Lance Corporal Morrison scored 4 hits as well. When it was Sarah's turn, the other students watched with obvious anticipation of her failure. Sarah studied the targets through her scope, mentally calculating ranges and wind corrections. When Thompson started the timer, she moved methodically from target to target, taking precise shots without rushing. Her first shot struck the 400-yard target in the center ring. The second shot hit the 600-yard target perfectly. The third and fourth shots eliminated the 800 and 900-yard targets with equal precision. The final target was at the maximum range, 1,000 yards. Sarah took extra time to read the wind, which had shifted slightly during her string of fire. She adjusted her point of aim and squeezed the trigger just as the timer reached 55 seconds. Through the spotting scope, Thompson confirmed a center hit on the final target. 5 for 5 in 58 seconds, outstanding performance. The other students said nothing, but Sarah could feel their resentment growing. She was not only keeping pace with their training, she was exceeding their performance. That evening, Sergeant Williams confronted Sarah outside the dining facility. Corporal Jackson and Lance Corporal Morrison flanked him, creating an intimidating presence. "Martinez, we need to talk," Williams said, blocking her path. "What about, Sergeant?" "About the fact that you're making us all look bad. This isn't some publicity stunt or social experiment. This is serious training for serious warriors." Sarah kept her voice calm and professional. "I'm here for the same reason you are, to become the best marksman I can be." "No, you're here because some politicians want to prove a point about women in combat. When this program is over, you'll go back to your regular unit, and we'll be the ones getting shot at in real combat." "I've already been in combat, Sergeant. That convoy attack wasn't a training exercise." Corporal Jackson stepped forward. "One lucky engagement doesn't make you a sniper. We've been doing this for years." "And yet I'm outperforming all of you on the range," Sarah replied evenly. The comment stung because it was true. Sarah's scores consistently ranked at the top of the class, and her improvement rate was faster than any of the other students. "Range shooting isn't real sniping," Williams shot back. "Wait until we get to the field training exercises. That's where we'll see what you're really made of." Field training began the following week. Students were required to move cross-country carrying full combat loads, establish concealed firing positions, and engage targets without being detected by opposing forces. The exercise simulated a combat scenario where enemy patrols were searching for hidden snipers. Students who were spotted or who failed to engage their assigned targets would be eliminated from the program. Sarah drew the most challenging assignment, a hilltop position that offered excellent fields of fire but required a 3-mile approach march through difficult terrain. She would have to carry her rifle, ammunition, camouflage materials, food, and water for a 3-day exercise. The other students were assigned positions closer to the base camp with easier approaches. Sarah suspected this wasn't a coincidence. She began her approach march before dawn, moving carefully through the darkness. The route led through dense woods, across 2 streams, and up a steep hillside covered with loose rocks that could easily betray her position. Sarah had studied the topographical maps extensively and planned her route to avoid obvious danger areas. She moved slowly and quietly, stopping frequently to listen for sounds that might indicate enemy activity. By mid-morning, she had reached her assigned position and begun constructing her hide site. Using natural materials and camouflage netting, she created a concealed position that was virtually invisible from any direction. The position offered clear views of multiple target areas where enemy forces were expected to appear. Sarah settled in to wait, knowing that patience was as important as marksmanship in sniper operations. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Sarah remained motionless in her hide site, occasionally scanning the target areas through her scope, but seeing no sign of enemy activity. Then, just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, movement caught her eye. A patrol of 4 opposing force members was moving along a trail approximately 600 yards from her position. Sarah tracked them through her scope, waiting for them to enter her assigned engagement area. When they did, she began the sequence of actions that had become second nature through countless hours of practice. Range to target, 620 yards. Wind, 5 miles per hour from the left. Adjusted point of aim, 1 mil dot left and 3 mil dots high. She settled the crosshairs on the lead member of the patrol and controlled her breathing. At the natural pause between breaths, she squeezed the trigger. The training ammunition marked its impact with a bright splash of paint on the target's chest. Direct hit. Sarah immediately shifted to the second target and fired again. 4 shots, 4 hits. The entire patrol was eliminated before they could react or locate her firing position. Sarah remained in her hide site for the remainder of the exercise, as instructed. She engaged 2 more enemy patrols over the next 2 days, achieving perfect scores on all engagements while remaining completely undetected. When the exercise ended and students returned to the base camp, Master Sergeant Thompson reviewed everyone's performance. Sarah had achieved the highest scores in all categories: marksmanship, fieldcraft, and stealth. The other students' attitudes began to change after the field exercise. While they still maintained some professional distance, they could no longer question Sarah's competence. "You did good work out there," Sergeant Williams admitted during a break between training sessions. "That hilltop position was a beast to get to." "Thank you, Sergeant. I learned a lot from watching how you set up your hide sites." "Yeah, well, maybe we can all learn from each other." It was a small admission, but it represented a significant shift in the group dynamics. Sarah had proven herself through performance rather than words, which was the only currency that mattered in the military. As the weeks passed, the training became increasingly advanced. Students learned to engage targets at ranges exceeding 1,500 yards, to operate in urban environments, and to coordinate with other military units. Sarah excelled at every aspect of the training. Her natural shooting ability, combined with her dedication to learning and physical toughness, made her an ideal student. By the end of the program, she had achieved the highest overall scores in the class. But as graduation approached, Sarah began to worry about what would happen next. The experimental program was ending, and she still didn't have an official scout sniper designation. Would she be sent back to a regular infantry unit, her advanced training wasted? Master Sergeant Thompson called her into his office during the final week of training. "Martinez, we need to discuss your future assignment." "Yes, Master Sergeant." "Your performance in this program has been exceptional. You've not only met every standard, you've exceeded them. The question now is how to best utilize your skills." Sarah waited nervously for him to continue. "There's a new unit being formed. a specialized team that will operate independently on high-priority missions. They need someone with your particular skill set. What kind of missions? The kind where precision shooting and stealth are more important than official designations. Are you interested? Sarah thought about everything she had been through, the rejections, the skepticism, the constant need to prove herself. Now she was being offered the chance to use her skills in a role that would make a real difference. Yes, Master Sergeant, I'm very interested. Thompson smiled. Good, report to Colonel Martinez at Special Operations Command next Monday, and Martinez. Yes, Master Sergeant. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong there. You've earned your place through performance. As Sarah packed her gear for the move to Special Operations Command, she reflected on how much had changed since that first rejection from Scout Sniper School. She still didn't have the official designation she had originally sought, but she had something more valuable: the skills, confidence, and respect she needed to succeed at the highest levels of military service. The real test, however, was still ahead of her. Special Operations Command meant combat deployments and missions where failure wasn't an option. Sarah would soon discover that all her training had been preparation for challenges she couldn't yet imagine. Special Operations Command was unlike anything Sarah had experienced in her military career. The compound buzzed with an energy that was both focused and intense. Personnel moved with purpose through buildings that housed some of the most elite units in the American military. Colonel Martinez, a stern woman in her early 50s with graying hair and sharp eyes, greeted Sarah in her office. The walls were covered with unit citations, photographs from deployment locations around the world, and maps marked with classified information. Welcome to Soch, Martinez, the colonel said, gesturing for Sarah to take a seat. I've reviewed your training records and performance evaluations. Impressive work. Thank you, ma'am. Your timing is perfect. We're forming a new unit called Overwatch Team Alpha. It's a small, highly specialized group that provides precision fire support for sensitive operations. The colonel opened a folder marked with classification stamps. Traditional sniper teams operate in pairs, a shooter and a spotter. Overwatch Team Alpha operates differently. You'll work alone, providing precision fire support for multiple teams simultaneously. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of challenge she had trained for. The missions are high-risk, high-value operations where failure isn't an option. You'll be supporting hostage rescues, counterterrorism operations, and classified missions I can't discuss in detail. Ma'am, what about my official designation? I still don't have Scout Sniper certification. Colonel Martinez leaned back in her chair. Martinez, in Special Operations, we care about results, not paperwork. Your performance speaks louder than any official designation. The team you'll be supporting requested you specifically after reviewing your training records. She handed Sarah a new set of orders. Report to Building 7 at 0600 tomorrow. Ask for Captain Davis. He'll brief you on your first mission. That evening, Sarah called her family to share the news about her new assignment. She couldn't provide details about her role or location, but she wanted them to know she was doing well. We're proud of you, Mija, her father said during the call. Your grandfather would have loved to see how far you've come with that rifle of his. I think about him every time I shoot, Dad. He taught me that accuracy is about more than just hitting targets. It's about having the discipline to make the right shot at the right time. That's wisdom that will serve you well. Stay safe and remember that we're always here for you. The next morning, Sarah reported to Building 7 carrying her gear and equipment. The structure looked like a standard office building from the outside, but the interior revealed its true purpose. Weapons storage rooms, briefing areas with multiple screens, and communications equipment that could reach anywhere in the world. Captain Davis was a compact man in his 30s with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years in combat. His uniform bore Special Operations insignia and combat ribbons from multiple deployments. Martinez, good to meet you. I'm looking forward to working with someone with your reputation. Thank you, sir. I'm ready to get started. Excellent. Let me introduce you to the team you'll be supporting. He led her into a briefing room where 4 men in civilian clothes were studying satellite photographs and mission plans. They looked up as she entered, and Sarah immediately recognized the focused intensity of elite operators. Gentlemen, meet our new Overwatch specialist. Captain Davis announced. Martinez, this is Team Alpha, Rodriguez, Thompson, Jackson, and Williams. They're some of our most experienced operators. The men stood and shook her hand professionally. Sarah could see them sizing her up, evaluating whether she would be an asset or a liability to their operations. Rodriguez, the team leader, spoke first. We've heard about your convoy performance and training scores. Impressive work. Thank you. I'm here to provide whatever support you need. Good answer, Thompson said. We'll find out soon enough how well you work under pressure. Captain Davis activated a large screen that displayed satellite imagery of a compound in a mountainous region. Your first mission launches in 72 hours. Here's the situation. The screen showed detailed photographs of buildings, guard positions, and terrain features. Sarah studied the images carefully, already beginning to plan potential shooting positions. Intelligence indicates that American hostages are being held in this compound. The hostage takers are well armed and have prepared defensive positions throughout the area. Davis pointed to various locations on the photographs. Team Alpha will infiltrate the compound from the east and attempt to reach the hostages. Your job is to provide overwatch and eliminate any threats that could compromise the mission. Sarah examined the terrain around the compound. Sir, what's the maximum range I should plan for? The compound sits in a valley surrounded by ridgelines. Potential overwatch positions range from 800 to 1,200 yards from target areas. Sarah nodded. 1,200 yards was at the extreme edge of her effective range with standard equipment, but it was doable under the right conditions. Weather forecast calls for clear skies and light winds, Davis continued. That should work in your favor for long-range shooting. Rodriguez leaned forward. Martinez, the success of this mission depends on precise timing and coordination. When we call for fire support, we need immediate response. Lives depend on your accuracy. Understood, I won't let you down. The next 3 days were spent in intensive mission planning and rehearsal. Sarah studied every detail of the compound layout, memorized guard schedules and patrol patterns, and planned multiple routes to her overwatch position. The team practiced their assault on a mock-up of the compound built at a training facility. Sarah worked from a tower that simulated her actual firing position, coordinating with the assault team through radio communications. During the rehearsals, Sarah demonstrated her ability to engage multiple targets quickly and accurately. She could shift from target to target at different ranges without missing, providing the precise fire support that special operations demanded. Your shooting is solid, Rodriguez told her after a particularly challenging rehearsal scenario. But remember, this isn't a training exercise. The people shooting back will be using real bullets. I understand, sir. I've been in combat before. Not like this. Convoy actions are reactive. You respond to immediate threats. Special operations are proactive. We're deliberately walking into a fight, and everyone involved knows we're coming. The night before the mission, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk running through every detail of the plan, visualizing potential scenarios and her responses to them. She thought about the hostages counting on their rescue and the team members who would be depending on her protection. At 0400 hours, the team assembled for final mission brief and equipment check. Sarah's kit included a customized rifle system optimized for long-range precision shooting, advanced optics that could operate in low-light conditions, and communications equipment that would keep her connected to the assault team. Remember, once we're on the ground, mission success depends on everyone doing their job perfectly, Captain Davis reminded the team. Martinez, you're our insurance policy. Keep the team safe and bring everyone home. The helicopter flight to the target area took 3 hours, flying low and fast through mountain valleys to avoid detection. Sarah used the time to review her range cards and study the terrain one final time. As they approached the insertion point, she could see the compound in the distance. It looked exactly like the satellite photographs, but seeing it in person gave her a better understanding of the challenges ahead. The helicopter dropped the team at a landing zone 5 miles from the target. Team Alpha would approach the compound on foot, while Sarah moved to her overwatch position on a ridge overlooking the valley. Sarah's route to the overwatch position was deliberately circuitous to avoid enemy observation posts. She moved carefully through the darkness, using night vision equipment to navigate the rocky terrain without making noise. It took her 3 hours to reach her planned firing position. The location offered excellent visibility of the entire compound while providing concealment behind a cluster of large rocks. Sarah set up her rifle carefully, using a bipod to create a stable shooting platform. She ranged the major features of the compound with her laser rangefinder and recorded the distances on her range card. Main building 1,050 yards. Guard towers 930 and 1,120 yards. Vehicle compound 870 yards. The assault team was still 2 hours away from the target, so Sarah settled in to observe and gather intelligence. Through her high-powered scope, she could see guards moving around the compound and lights in the building where the hostages were believed to be held. As dawn approached, activity in the compound increased. Guards changed shifts, vehicles moved between buildings, and Sarah began to identify patterns in the defensive routine. At 0600 hours, Rodriguez's voice came through her earpiece. "Overwatch, this is Alpha Team. We're in position and beginning approach." "Copy, Alpha Team. I have eyes on the compound. 3 guards visible in the main courtyard, 2 in the north tower." Sarah tracked the assault team's movement through her scope as they approached the compound perimeter. They moved like shadows, invisible to the guards who were focused on watching the obvious approach routes. Everything went according to plan until Rodriguez and his team reached the outer fence. As they began cutting through the wire, a guard in the main building stepped onto a balcony for a cigarette break. From his elevated position, the guard had a clear view of the team's entry point. If he turned his head slightly to the left, he would spot the infiltrators immediately. "Alpha Team, hold position," Sarah whispered into her radio. "Guard on the main building balcony. If he sees you, the whole mission is blown." "Can you take him out quietly?" Rodriguez asked. Sarah studied the target through her scope. Range, 1,050 yards. The guard was partially concealed by the balcony railing, and taking the shot would alert everyone in the compound to their presence. "Negative on the shot, too much exposure. Wait for him to go inside." For 5 agonizing minutes, the team remained frozen at the fence while the guard smoked his cigarette and looked around the compound. Sarah kept her crosshairs centered on him, ready to take the shot if he spotted the team. Finally, the guard finished his cigarette and went back inside. "Clear to proceed," Sarah reported. The team cut through the fence and moved into the compound. Sarah tracked their progress while scanning for threats that could compromise the mission. As Rodriguez's team approached the main building, Sarah spotted movement in the North Guard Tower. A sentry was raising binoculars to scan the compound. "Alpha Team, guard in North Tower is going active. He's about to sweep your location." "Take him out," Rodriguez ordered. Sarah shifted her aim to the guard tower. Range, 930 yards. The guard was clearly visible in her scope, completely unaware of the danger. She controlled her breathing and settled the crosshair's center mass on the target. At the natural pause between breaths, she squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and Sarah immediately worked the bolt to chamber another round. Through her scope, she saw the guard drop out of sight behind the tower wall. "North Tower neutralized," she reported. The assault team reached the main building and began their entry procedures. Sarah continued scanning for threats while listening to their progress through her radio. "We've located the hostages," Rodriguez reported. 3 Americans, all alive but injured, beginning extraction. That's when everything went wrong. An alarm began blaring throughout the compound. Guards poured out of buildings, and Sarah could see muzzle flashes as they began firing at the main building. "Contact, we're taking fire from multiple positions," Rodriguez shouted over the radio. "Overwatch, we need immediate fire support." Sarah could see at least 6 enemy fighters in the courtyard, firing automatic weapons at the building where Rodriguez's team was trapped with the hostages. Range to courtyard, 1,050 yards, multiple targets moving in different directions. This was the moment all her training had prepared her for. Sarah engaged the first target, a man with an RPG launcher who was preparing to fire at the building. Her shot dropped him instantly, and the RPG round exploded harmlessly against the ground. She immediately shifted to the second target, a fighter with a machine gun who was setting up a position that would give him a clear shot at the building entrance. Another precise shot eliminated that threat. Target 3 was moving between buildings, making him a challenging shot. Sarah tracked his movement and fired when he stopped momentarily in the open. Direct hit. The remaining fighters began taking cover and returning fire in her direction, but they couldn't determine her exact position. Bullets struck the rocks around her firing position, but none came close enough to force her to relocate. Sarah continued engaging targets methodically, picking off anyone who exposed themselves to fire at the building. Her shooting was calm and precise, even as enemy rounds sparked off the rocks around her. "Outstanding shooting, Overwatch," Rodriguez called over the radio. "You're keeping them off us. We're moving to the extraction point." Sarah watched the assault team emerge from the building carrying the hostages. They moved quickly toward the extraction point while she continued providing covering fire. A new threat appeared as vehicles full of reinforcements approached the compound from the access road. Sarah engaged the lead vehicle, putting rounds through the windshield and stopping the convoy. Enemy fighters scattered from the disabled vehicles, but they were now in the open at long range, exactly the kind of targets Sarah had trained to engage. One by one, she eliminated the reinforcements before they could reach the compound and threaten the extraction team. "Overwatch, this is extraction helicopter inbound to pickup zone," came a new voice over the radio. "Copy extraction bird. The LZ is clear, but be advised we have active threats in the compound area." The helicopter appeared over the ridgeline and dropped quickly toward the extraction point where Rodriguez's team was waiting with the hostages. As it landed, enemy fighters attempted to engage it with small arms fire. Sarah shifted her attention to protecting the helicopter during the vulnerable loading process. She engaged anyone who tried to shoot at the aircraft while the team and hostages climbed aboard. "Extraction complete," Rodriguez reported. "All personnel and hostages on board and departing." Sarah watched the helicopter disappear over the ridgeline before beginning her own extraction procedures. She had to move quickly because enemy forces were now searching for her position. She packed her equipment rapidly and began moving toward her own extraction point 3 miles away. The route led through difficult terrain that would provide concealment, but would also slow her movement. Sarah moved as quickly as possible while maintaining tactical discipline. She could hear enemy vehicles on the roads below, searching for the sniper who had caused so much damage to their operation. After 2 hours of careful movement through the mountains, Sarah reached the extraction point where another helicopter was waiting. As she climbed aboard, the crew chief gave her a thumbs up. "Outstanding work out there," he shouted over the engine noise. "Team Alpha is already back at base with the hostages. Everyone made it home safe thanks to your shooting." During the flight back to base, Sarah reflected on her performance during the mission. She had engaged 12 enemy targets at ranges from 800 to 1,200 yards, achieving hits on all engagements while protecting the assault team and hostages. When they landed at the base, Captain Davis was waiting to debrief her immediately. "Martinez, preliminary reports indicate you performed exceptionally during this operation. Rodriguez says you saved their lives multiple times." "I just did my job, sir." "No, you did much more than that. Word of your performance today is already reaching the highest levels of command. I think you're going to find that opportunities will start opening up for you." As Sarah cleaned her equipment and filed her after-action report, she realized that everything had changed. She had proven herself in actual combat under the most demanding conditions possible. No one could question her capabilities now. But she also understood that success in special operations meant that even more challenging missions lay ahead. The skills she had developed and the reputation she was building would lead to increasingly dangerous assignments where the stakes would be even higher. For now, though, Sarah allowed herself to feel satisfaction in knowing that her performance had saved lives and completed a critical mission. The little girl who had learned to shoot on a Texas ranch had become exactly what she had always dreamed of being, a warrior who made a difference when it mattered most. 3 months after the hostage rescue mission, Sarah had completed 6 more operations with Overwatch Team Alpha. Each mission had been successful, and her reputation within the special operations community continued to grow. She had proven herself capable of operating effectively in desert environments, urban settings, and jungle terrain. But success brought new challenges that Sarah hadn't anticipated. The attention from her combat performance had reached the highest levels of the Pentagon. Military leaders were using her achievements as evidence in debates about changing combat exclusion policies. Sarah found herself caught in the middle of political discussions that had little to do with her actual capabilities. Colonel Martinez called Sarah into her office on a rainy Thursday morning. Sitting across from the colonel was General Patricia Morrison, a two-star general with silver hair and the bearing of someone who had spent decades fighting her way through military hierarchies. Martinez, this is General Morrison from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. She's here to discuss an important opportunity. General Morrison studied Sarah with intense blue eyes. Your performance over the past few months has been remarkable. 6 successful missions with 0 failures and exceptional marksmanship under combat conditions. Thank you, ma'am. The Joint Chiefs are developing new policies regarding women in combat roles. Your success has become a case study in proving that individual capability matters more than gender. Sarah felt uncomfortable being used as a political symbol. Ma'am, I just want to serve effectively wherever the military needs me. That's exactly the attitude we need, General Morrison said. Which brings me to why I'm here. There's a mission coming up that requires someone with your specific skill set. It's the most challenging assignment you've faced, and it could have significant impact on future policy decisions. She opened a classified folder and activated a secure screen display. Intelligence has located a high-value target in a mountain compound in Afghanistan. This individual has been coordinating terrorist attacks against American forces for over 2 years. The screen showed satellite imagery of a fortress-like structure built into a mountainside. The compound was surrounded by defensive positions and appeared virtually impregnable. Previous attempts to eliminate this target have failed. He's protected by extensive security and never stays in one location long enough for conventional airstrikes. Sarah studied the imagery carefully. The compound was situated in terrain that would make any ground assault extremely difficult. Steep cliffs surrounded most of the structure, and the few approach routes were heavily defended. What makes this different from previous attempts? Sarah asked. Intelligence indicates the target will be attending a meeting at this compound in 10 days. It's the first time in months that we've had advance notice of his location. General Morrison pointed to features on the satellite image. The challenge is that conventional sniper positions around this compound are either too far for accurate shooting or too exposed for survival. Sarah examined the terrain more closely. The nearest concealed positions appeared to be at least 1,500 yards from the compound, which was at the extreme edge of effective sniper range. Ma'am, 1,500 yards is a very long shot, especially in mountain conditions. Wind patterns can be unpredictable at that range. We're aware of the challenges. That's why this mission requires someone with exceptional ability and proven performance under pressure. Colonel Martinez interjected. Martinez, you should know that this mission is entirely voluntary. No one would blame you for declining such a high-risk assignment. Sarah thought about the implications. A successful mission would demonstrate that female snipers could handle the most challenging assignments, but failure could be used to justify continued exclusion policies. Ma'am, what kind of support would be available? General Morrison activated another display showing additional satellite imagery. You would be inserted by helicopter at night, 15 miles from the target. From there, you would move overland to establish a concealed position. What about extraction? Extraction would occur 48 hours after mission completion at a predetermined location. You would be operating completely alone during the mission. Sarah absorbed this information. Operating alone in enemy territory for multiple days was significantly more dangerous than her previous missions with team support. The shot itself is only part of the challenge, General Morrison continued. You would need to infiltrate through enemy-controlled territory, establish a position without being detected, make the shot, and then evade pursuit for extraction. Ma'am, has anyone attempted this particular shot before? Yes, 3 different sniper teams have tried to engage targets at this compound. None were successful, and 2 teams suffered casualties during their attempts. The weight of that information settled over Sarah. This wasn't just a challenging mission. It was one that had already proven too difficult for experienced teams. Martinez, I need to be completely honest with you. General Morrison said. The military value of eliminating this target is significant, but there's also political importance to this mission. Your success or failure will influence decisions about women in combat roles for years to come. Sarah understood the implications. She wasn't just being asked to take a difficult shot. She was being asked to carry the hopes of every woman who wanted to serve in combat roles. Ma'am, I need some time to consider this. Of course, take 24 hours and let Colonel Martinez know your decision. That evening, Sarah called her family to talk through her decision without revealing classified details. She spoke with her father about accepting challenging assignments and the responsibility that came with representing others. Mija, you've never backed down from a challenge, he told her. But you've also never taken unnecessary risks. Trust your training and your judgment. Dad, what if I fail? What if this is too much for anyone to accomplish? Then you fail attempting something important rather than succeeding at something easy. Your grandfather always said that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what needs to be done despite being afraid. Sarah also called Gunnery Sergeant Rodriguez, her first mentor in advanced shooting techniques. Gunny, I'm facing a decision about accepting a very challenging assignment. I can't give you details, but it's the kind of shot that would test everything I've learned. Martinez, do you believe you're capable of making the shot? Under perfect conditions, yes, but there are a lot of variables that could go wrong. There always are in combat. The question is whether your preparation and ability give you a reasonable chance of success. Sarah thought about her training and combat experience. She had consistently performed well under pressure and had succeeded in situations where others had failed. I think I have a chance, Gunny. Then take the shot. You've been training your whole life for opportunities like this. The next morning, Sarah reported to Colonel Martinez's office with her decision. Ma'am, I'll accept the mission. Are you certain? There's no shame in recognizing that some missions are beyond individual capability. I'm certain this is what I trained for. Colonel Martinez nodded. Then let's begin mission planning. You have 7 days to prepare. The preparation phase was the most intensive Sarah had ever experienced. She worked with ballistics experts to calculate precise trajectories for 1,500-yard shots in mountain conditions. Weather specialists provided detailed forecasts of wind patterns and atmospheric conditions. Advanced equipment specialists fitted her with the most sophisticated rifle system available, a custom weapon optimized for extreme long-range shooting. The rifle incorporated technology that wasn't available to conventional snipers, including advanced optics and computer-assisted ballistics calculations. Sarah spent hours on the practice range, engaging targets at 1,500 yards under various conditions. She practiced until the complex calculations for wind drift and bullet drop became instinctive. Physical conditioning specialists designed a training program to prepare her for the demanding approach march through mountain terrain while carrying full combat equipment. Intelligence specialists briefed her on enemy patrol patterns, security procedures, and terrain features that could affect her mission. Remember, this target has survived multiple assassination attempts by staying paranoid and well-protected, the intelligence officer told her. He trusts no one and changes his routine constantly. On the 6th day of preparation, Sarah participated in a full mission rehearsal using terrain similar to her actual target area. She demonstrated her ability to navigate 15 miles through difficult terrain at night, establish a concealed position, and engage targets at extreme range. Your technical skills are ready, Colonel Martinez told her after the rehearsal. The question now is whether you're mentally prepared for the isolation and pressure of operating alone. Ma'am, I've been operating alone most of my career in one way or another. This is just the ultimate test of everything I've learned. The night before deployment, General Morrison visited Sarah for a final briefing. Martinez, I want you to understand that whatever happens during this mission, you've already proven yourself beyond any doubt. You don't have to carry the weight of representing all women in combat. With respect, ma'am, I think I do. This mission is bigger than just eliminating one target. It's about proving that capability matters more than gender. Just remember to focus on the mission itself. Don't let the political implications distract you from the tactical requirements. The helicopter insertion went smoothly despite challenging mountain weather conditions. Sarah was dropped at a landing zone 15 miles from the target compound at 0200 hours under a moonless sky. She immediately began her approach march, moving carefully through terrain that ranged from dense forest to rocky cliffs. The route had been planned to avoid known enemy positions while still allowing her to reach the target area in time. The march took 12 hours, including multiple stops to avoid enemy patrols. Sarah moved with extreme caution, knowing that detection would mean certain death in this environment. By late afternoon, she had reached her planned firing position, a rocky outcrop that provided concealed observation of the target compound. The position was exactly 1,520 yards from the main building, where intelligence indicated the meeting would take place. Sarah established her hide site using natural materials and camouflage techniques perfected during months of training. The position was virtually invisible from any direction while still allowing clear fields of fire toward the compound. Through her high-powered scope, she could see the compound in detail. Guards moved between positions according to predictable patterns. Vehicles came and went along the single-access road. Everything appeared normal. Sarah spent the first night observing and confirming her intelligence information. Guard schedules matched her briefing materials, and the compound layout was exactly as described in satellite imagery. The next morning, activity in the compound increased significantly. Additional vehicles arrived, and security measures were heightened. Sarah knew the meeting was about to begin. At 10:30 in the morning, a convoy of black SUVs approached the compound. Through her scope, Sarah watched as several men in traditional robes exited the vehicles and entered the main building. Then she saw him, the target. He was exactly as described in intelligence photographs, a tall man with a distinctive beard who moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. Sarah tracked him through her scope as he walked from the vehicles to the building entrance. She could have taken the shot then, but intelligence required confirmation that the meeting was actually taking place before authorization to engage. For 2 hours, Sarah watched the compound while waiting for final authorization. The target remained inside the building with the other meeting participants. At 12:45, her radio crackled with the message she had been waiting for. "Overwatch, this is command. You are authorized to engage the target. Repeat, you are cleared to engage." Sarah settled into her final shooting position and began her preparations. Range, 1,520 yards. Wind, 8 miles per hour from the right, gusting to 12 miles per hour. Temperature, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. She adjusted her scope settings based on her calculations and settled the crosshairs on the building entrance where the target would appear when the meeting ended. At 1:15, movement inside the building indicated the meeting was concluding. Sarah controlled her breathing and prepared for the shot she had trained her entire career to make. The building door opened, and the target stepped outside. He paused on the steps, presenting a clear target for exactly 3 seconds. Sarah placed her crosshairs center mass on the target and began her trigger squeeze. At the natural pause between breaths, with the crosshairs perfectly aligned, she fired the shot that would change everything. The bullet flew for over 2 seconds before reaching its target. In that time, Sarah worked the bolt and prepared for a follow-up shot if necessary. Through her scope, she saw the target suddenly collapse on the building steps. Direct hit at 1,520 yards, one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in military history. Immediately, the compound erupted in chaos. Guards ran in all directions, vehicles raced toward the building, and radio chatter filled the airwaves as enemy forces tried to understand what had happened. Sarah remained in her hide site, observing the compound's response to confirm her target was eliminated. After 30 minutes, she was satisfied that the mission had been successful. Now came the most dangerous part, escaping through enemy territory that was now fully alerted to her presence. Sarah packed her equipment and began moving toward her extraction point, knowing that every enemy fighter in the area would be searching for her. The next 24 hours would test every survival skill she had ever learned. But the shot was complete, the mission was accomplished, and Sarah had proven that exceptional ability knows no gender boundaries. The immediate aftermath of the shot was chaos. Sarah watched through her scope as enemy fighters swarmed the compound, carrying their fallen leader and shouting orders in multiple languages. Vehicle engines roared to life as search teams prepared to hunt for the sniper who had accomplished the impossible. Sarah remained motionless in her hide site for 40 minutes, observing the enemy response and waiting for the initial panic to subside. Moving too quickly would expose her position to the dozens of fighters now scanning the surrounding mountains with binoculars. Through her radio, she heard distant chatter from enemy forces coordinating their search efforts. They knew the shot had come from a significant distance, but they couldn't pinpoint her location. The rocky terrain and careful positioning of her hide site had made her effectively invisible. When the immediate search activity moved away from her area, Sarah began her escape and evasion procedures. She had 18 hours to reach the extraction point 12 miles away through terrain that was now crawling with hostile forces. Sarah packed her equipment methodically, ensuring nothing was left behind that could reveal her position or capabilities. Every piece of gear was accounted for as she prepared to move. The escape route had been planned to avoid obvious paths and known enemy positions, but the massive search effort had changed the tactical situation completely. Sarah could see enemy vehicles on roads throughout the valley and knew that her planned route was no longer viable. She made the decision to move higher into the mountains, accepting the more difficult terrain in exchange for better concealment. The route would be longer and more physically demanding, but it offered the best chance of avoiding the search teams. Sarah began moving through rocky terrain that provided excellent cover, but made quiet movement extremely difficult. Every step had to be carefully placed to avoid dislodging stones that would roll down the mountainside and reveal her position. Progress was painfully slow. After 2 hours of careful movement, Sarah had covered less than 1 mile. At this rate, she would never reach the extraction point in time. The sound of helicopter rotors in the distance indicated that enemy forces had brought in air assets to support their search. Sarah took cover under a rock overhang and waited for the aircraft to pass. Through her binoculars, she could see the helicopter methodically searching the valley below her position. If they expanded their search to higher elevations, her chances of remaining undetected would drop significantly. As darkness fell, Sarah's mobility improved. She could move faster without being visible to observers, but the rocky terrain remained treacherous in low light conditions. She used night vision equipment to navigate while maintaining her pace toward the extraction point. 6 hours after beginning her escape, Sarah had covered 4 miles through some of the most difficult terrain she had ever encountered. She was behind schedule but still had a chance of reaching the extraction point if she could maintain her current pace. That's when she encountered the enemy patrol. Sarah was moving through a narrow canyon when she heard voices ahead of her position. She immediately took cover behind a boulder and observed 3 enemy fighters moving up the canyon, searching for any sign of the sniper. The patrol was moving directly toward her position, using flashlights to examine the ground for tracks or evidence. They would reach her hiding spot within minutes. Sarah had 3 options: try to hide and hope they passed without detecting her, attempt to sneak around them through even more difficult terrain, or eliminate them and continue her escape. Each option carried significant risks. Hiding might work, but if they found her, she would be trapped with no room to maneuver. Trying to go around them would cost precious time and might lead her into more patrols. Engaging them would create noise that could attract other search teams. Sarah chose the most direct approach. She would eliminate the patrol quickly and quietly, then continue her escape before other forces could respond. She positioned herself behind the boulder with a clear view of the canyon approach. When the first fighter came within range, she engaged him with her sidearm, using a suppressor to minimize the sound's signature. The second fighter reacted to his companion's sudden collapse by taking cover and calling out. Sarah eliminated him with a second precise shot before he could raise the alarm. The third fighter began retreating down the canyon while reaching for his radio. Sarah's third shot dropped him before he could transmit their position. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds. Sarah quickly searched the bodies for useful equipment and intelligence, then continued her movement toward the extraction point. The encounter with the patrol had cost her valuable time, but it had also eliminated 3 searchers who might have detected her trail. Sarah pushed herself harder, accepting greater risk to make up for lost time. As she climbed higher into the mountains, the terrain became even more challenging. Loose rock and steep grades tested her physical conditioning and load-carrying ability. The altitude made breathing more difficult, and the cold mountain air sapped her energy. Sarah forced herself to maintain discipline in her movement techniques despite her fatigue. Every step was planned, every rest stop was in concealed terrain, and every sound was minimized to avoid detection. 2 hours before sunrise, Sarah reached a ridgeline that offered her first clear view of the extraction area. Through her binoculars, she could see that enemy forces had established checkpoints on the roads leading to the extraction point. The helicopter landing zone was under direct observation from enemy positions. It was clear that the enemy had anticipated the need for extraction and had positioned forces accordingly. Sarah studied the tactical situation carefully. The extraction point was surrounded, but the enemy positions were focused on obvious approach routes. If she could reach the area from an unexpected direction, she might still be able to make the pickup. She identified a steep ravine that led directly to the extraction area, but would require her to descend several hundred feet of near-vertical terrain. The route was dangerous and would leave her exposed if discovered, but it might be her only option. Sarah began the dangerous descent just as dawn was breaking. The ravine was filled with loose rock that threatened to cascade down the mountainside with every movement. She moved with extreme care, testing each handhold and footstep before committing her weight. Halfway down the ravine, Sarah heard voices from the extraction area below. Enemy fighters were discussing search patterns and radio procedures, apparently confident that they had trapped the sniper. Sarah remained motionless against the ravine wall, listening to their conversations and gathering intelligence about their positions and plans. They were expecting the extraction attempt and had prepared accordingly. From her position, Sarah could see the landing zone clearly. 4 enemy fighters were concealed around the perimeter with automatic weapons and radio equipment. Additional forces were positioned on high ground overlooking the area. Sarah checked her watch. The extraction helicopter would arrive in 2 hours. She had to eliminate or neutralize the enemy forces around the landing zone without alerting the larger search effort. She studied each enemy position carefully, planning her engagement sequence to maximize surprise and minimize the chance of effective return fire. The positions were spaced far enough apart that she could engage them individually without immediately alerting the others. Sarah moved to a position where she could engage the first enemy fighter without being seen by the others. Using her suppressed sidearm, she eliminated him quietly and then moved to her next position. One by one, Sarah eliminated the enemy fighters around the landing zone. Her movement between positions was careful and deliberate, using terrain and concealment to remain undetected. The larger enemy force on the surrounding high ground remained unaware that their perimeter security had been compromised. They continued their radio chatter and observation activities, focused on watching for obvious approaches to the area. With 30 minutes remaining until extraction, Sarah moved to the designated pickup point and established a concealed observation position. Everything appeared ready for the helicopter's arrival. At exactly the scheduled time, Sarah heard the distinctive sound of rotors echoing through the mountains. The extraction helicopter appeared over the ridgeline, flying low and fast toward the landing zone. As the aircraft approached, Sarah activated her survival radio and transmitted the authentication codes that confirmed her identity and status. Extraction bird, this is Overwatch. Landing zone is clear and secure, ready for pickup. Copy Overwatch, we have you in sight. Touchdown in 30 seconds. The helicopter landed quickly, and Sarah sprinted from her concealed position toward the aircraft. As she climbed aboard, enemy forces on the distant ridgelines began firing at the helicopter, but the range was too great for effective engagement. The helicopter lifted off immediately and accelerated away from the area at maximum speed. Sarah had successfully completed the most challenging mission of her career and escaped through enemy territory that had been actively searching for her. During the flight back to base, Sarah reflected on everything that had happened over the past 72 hours. She had accomplished something that previous teams had failed to achieve, proving that exceptional skill and proper preparation could overcome seemingly impossible odds. When they landed at the base, General Morrison was waiting personally to debrief her. Martinez, preliminary intelligence confirms that your target has been eliminated. The mission was a complete success. Thank you, ma'am. More importantly, your performance during this operation has settled the debate about women in combat roles. The Joint Chiefs have voted to remove gender restrictions from all military occupations, including scout sniper positions. Sarah felt a surge of emotion at this news. Ma'am, that's everything I've been working toward. You've earned it through performance, not politics. Your example has proven that capability is what matters, not gender. Over the following weeks, Sarah's achievement became known throughout the military community. The 1,500-yard shot was confirmed as one of the longest combat kills in history, and her successful escape through enemy territory became a case study in special operations training. More importantly, female Marines began applying for Scout Sniper School for the first time. Sarah was asked to serve as an instructor, helping to train the next generation of female snipers who would follow in her path. During her first class at Sniper School, Sarah addressed a group of students that included both men and women for the first time in the school's history. Being a sniper isn't about gender, she told them. It's about precision, patience, and the discipline to make the right shot when lives depend on it. Every one of you has the potential to excel if you're willing to do the work. After the class, a young female Marine approached Sarah. Ma'am, I've been following your career since the convoy incident. You've inspired a lot of us to pursue opportunities that we never thought would be available. Sarah thought about her own journey from that first rejection from Scout Sniper School to becoming the instructor who was training the next generation. The opportunities were always there, she replied. Sometimes it just takes someone willing to prove that the barriers aren't as real as people think they are. 6 months later, the first female Marine graduated from Scout Sniper School under the new policies. She was followed by others who continued to prove that exceptional performance knows no gender boundaries. Sarah eventually transitioned from active duty to training and development roles, but her impact on military culture continued to grow. She had not only become an exceptional sniper, but had opened doors for countless others who shared her dedication to excellence. Years later, when military historians wrote about the integration of women into combat roles, they identified Sarah's 1,500-yard shot as the moment when capability finally overcame prejudice. But for Sarah, the most important legacy was the young women who now served as snipers, proving every day that skill and determination matter more than any artificial barrier. The little girl who had learned to shoot on a Texas ranch had not only achieved her own dreams, but had made it possible for others to achieve theirs as well. In the end, that impact proved more valuable than any individual accomplishment, no matter how impressive the shot had been. Sarah's grandfather had been right when he taught her that accuracy wasn't just about hitting targets. It was about having the discipline to make the right shot at the right time. Sarah's right shot had changed everything, not just for herself, but for every woman who would follow her example in the years to come. The barriers had fallen, and they would never be rebuilt. Performance had proven more powerful than prejudice, just as Sarah had always believed it would.